Thank you very much for having the opportunity to present the UNECE Just Transition Report here in front of the committee. I'm Hans-Rüdiger Lange and have been the international expert involved in the project. Beforehand, I would really like to thank very much the UNECE organization, in particular Michael Dabik, Secretary of the UNECE Group of Experts, Oleg Jibinski as Regional Advisor at the UNECE Sustainable Energy Division, and Raymond Pilcha, Chair of the UNECE Group of Experts, as well as, of course, Dario Luguti, Director of the UNECE Sustainable Energy Division. They have been key to develop the project and structure it and advance it throughout the last 6 months, the second half of 2023. So this project, which is to some extent summarized in this report, actually concluded field trips, intensive stakeholder dialogues, a series of interviews with experts from different areas of expertise in Albania. Also great contributions from experts, partially also from the UNECE expert group, who actually contributed to the discussion in Albania with their experience from their countries, but also with suggestions and ideas to develop approaches to improve and further develop the situation of mining communities in Albania. So in this context of the project, the objective of this report is unpacked in particular to be kind of handbook and a good basis for dialogue and further development of mining communities and post-coal mining communities in Albania, as well as for stakeholders from the larger society and the government in the country and also in the neighboring countries in the West Balkan region. So the report is structured in 3 main sections. So there's one key section which is dedicated to the understanding of these kind of socio-economic transitions, which Just Transition really intends to develop in a kind of successful coping and development options for these affected communities. So understanding is the first pillar. The second is actually to provide insight, data and information so that the communities and also the Albanian state and society understands where they stand in terms of just transition process, and also that they have the key data and information to develop actions and ideas from bottom up and also top down from the government to coordinate the efforts for successful just transition. That's the second pillar. So I will show some kind of elements of the report in this respect, which has been a key part of the work here. And then there's a third section, which is more on the just transition process, to give recommendations, some evaluations and feedback from the experts, and actually to help to set up a kind of procedure and some actions, some projects in order to complete the incomplete socioeconomic transition of mining, coal mining exit in Albania. Just to give you a few elements of these analyses. So this first part, to build the understanding, there are a number of sections which can be used with references to practical recommendations, what actually this complexity and the challenges, but also the opportunities of socioeconomic transitions are, how things are interrelated, the importance of the local ecosystem, the economical aspect, and also mining closure expertise in order to actually cope with the legacies of mining. There's a second part in this second column and pillar on transparency. We had particular challenges to get a good database on the situation for two reasons. One reason is that the intense mining closure is actually 30 years ago, but the data on these mines and also on the mining community is very scarce. This has to do with the fact that as in other parts of Europe, it was the end of a socialist regime there. So we have a lot of disruption also in administrative process and data collection. So in wide areas, we don't have data. So the more important it is to provide a best possible transparency, because the data and information is actually a precondition for a just transition, coordination, and development of new projects. So you see on the right side a collection of a map of Albania with some 32 coal mines. They are grouped in 8 geologically in 4 coal basins. And in terms of society, there are 8 mining communities or post-mining coal mining communities, which we describe in the following. We did a series of analyses here to the left. It's just one part. This is the kind of economical analysis of the supply chain in the situation before 1990, a kind of centrally planned economy, which actually used the coal mining essentially to 2/3 for industrial processes and a very simple energy supply chain. And below, for instance, you see the emerging kind of European market, electricity energy market, value networks, where there's much more complexity involved due to import, export, and market roles, which of course offers also considerable new opportunities for Albania, and also especially for remote mining communities, which often have some exposed land or past mining used land, which can be a fantastic source also for energy production. On the right side here, just a little extract, we try to cope with the very limited data availability. You see this in the kind of bars under each graph. When it's red, we didn't have the right data. And so you can see we built a little digital twin to make actually a simulation on using key data from interviews and some partial available data. So you see on the top the mining employment and related employment. You see from a pretty high level, it actually very quickly was disrupted with the deindustrialization process in the post-1990 changes due to market liberalization. The social side there was a small program over a few years for senior miners, which initially in the situation was also attractive economically for them, but the large part of employees in the mining sector actually went into first immigration and later into pension. On the side of carbon economy or ecological healing, as we frame it in the report, we see this coal exit. We see the steep decline in per capita CO2 emissions due to deindustrialization of Albania, and then a pick up and gradually stabilization of per capita CO2 emissions. In terms of green economy, Albania has an extraordinary position in the ranking in the world on high renewable energy production. Hydropower is a central element in this picture. It has been slightly also extended since the 1990s, and still has a lot of opportunity. And I think a very big challenge is to develop for Albania an economical, sustainable growth model, which is decoupled from CO2 emission increase. I think there's an extraordinary opportunity that that Albania becomes a front runner in this endeavor. Here are two samples, one site visits, the field trips, where we analyzed actually a kind of one Krabe at Krabe and Musketa. We analyzed mines, and you can have a only very short insight that, you know, there's kind of water leakages from the site. There are dumps from the mine close to riverbeds, and you see also that in the lower right there's actually highway construction and so on going on former mining areas, which to a large extent haven't been correctly closed. One other key element for developing new opportunities is providing transparency and information for each local mining community. So we developed a kind of ID card for mining communities. You see a sample here for the corresponding mining communities here, which have been also the mini case study. Then we come also to this dialogue, so that we had workshops there. That we will have shortly also workshop with the stakeholders on the ground. We use a kind of maturity model for the just transition. And here below you see, for instance, an expert rating experts which have accompanied the 6 months of dialogue on just transition in Albania. And you can see that essentially the just transition readiness or situation is pretty much still in the beginning. There have been some efforts in some areas, but there's no structured approach, and we could clearly see, and I think this is an important point for the UNECE expert committee, if there is not a consistent approach to the closure of mines, you end up with a lot of follow-up and legacy problems. And so I think this makes the case of Albania and just transition case of Albania particularly important and meaningful also for the wider community of the expert group, that if we do this better, we can avoid the kind of legacy problems which we can see in this study and report in Albania now. And I want to say also there's lots of opportunities in the country. The first thing is that there is part of the exit has been already completed. There are other steps which have to be completed, and there's a particular window of opportunity also now with the EU accession talks. There's a strong drive for modernization in this overall society and government in Albania. There's an increase of regional cooperation. There are also funds from different areas, also from the World Bank and so on, to support this transition. And there's a lot of conceptual methodology, and as also this UNECE expert group, there's the availability of international experts, both for competence and solidarity, to foster the development in Albania. And third, Albania is a fantastic country. It's very rich also, not only in coal reserve, which has been a key element in the last 60, 70 years, but in terms of natural resources, but also of geostrategic position. It's like a hub within the Balkan Six, and has also the coast access and mountains. So I think there are lots of good opportunities to develop growth path into net zero economy, maybe even become a front runner within Europe on this thing. So we have a number of recommendations, and we are looking very much forward to continue this work. There's already a workshop scheduled for April, where we want to pick up on this report finding and look into development options for the mining communities in Albania. So much for the moment here on this report. I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to work on the project with the expert group, and I'm very thankful for the resources which have been dedicated to this, and I'm looking forward to continue to work on this endeavor, and I'm also available for further exchange in different formats. I wish a successful meeting. Thank you very much.